Welcome everybody. Welcome to White City Place Connect, where we're providing occupiers of White City Place a live platform to learn and engage while supporting well-being from the comfort and safety of our homes. Fabulous. Let's begin on the ground, on our mats. We're going to come into constructive resting pose, always a really beautiful way to start our practice. With the knees bent, feet about hip distance apart, about a hand span from heels to sit bones. So you could just measure that out if you wish to, or just be quite intuitive about this. I know it may seem obvious, but if you have anything in your hair that is preventing you from resting on the center back of your skull, just slip that out of the way. We're going to begin just by releasing the neck a little bit, by pressing down to the center back of your skull, lifting your shoulder blades vertically off the mat, just a couple of centimeters or maybe an inch, and you'll feel there's quite a lot of pressure on the back of the skull, but also the neck muscles are tensing. And from this tension in the neck, slide the shoulder blades down the back and release them back to the earth. And the palms towards the ceiling if you haven't done so already. And begin to roll across the back of your skull from point to point. Without using the neck muscles to turn the head, of course they will be engaging, but have a sense more of rolling from point to point, just allowing the momentum to turn your head from side to side. And start to become present to how this feels. Sometimes I find this changes the pressure within my skull, and some of us may be experiencing some allergies and hay fever at this time of year. You may also notice the shape of your skull. Is it completely smooth, or are you noticing any bumpy parts, any tender parts? Maybe it just feels really lovely. So yoga's a lot about paying attention to the parts of ourselves we don't normally pay attention to. It's a compassionate inquiry. Quite interesting how little we can know about parts of our bodies, or how much we can learn, just the subtle nuances when we pay attention. Okay, so come to rest on the center back of your skull on a single point. Softening the belly, just receiving each breath. Awareness of the relationship between your body and gravity. Are there any little parts or pockets of tension that you can reorganize so as to receive gravity more fully? Let's take a long, smooth inhalation through the nose and a complete exhalation out to the mouth. 2 more times. Inhaling long and smooth through the nose and sighing out to the mouth. Just 1 more breath in this way. And pressing down into your feet, can you lift your hips vertically off the earth? Maybe lifting the pelvic bones so they're in line with your knees and your shoulders. Use the legs to create this back bend more than the facet joints of your spine. Push into the heels, send the apex of your back bend into the center of your shoulder blades, into your chest. To about 70% of your capacity, so not the biggest back bend that you could achieve. Maybe walk your shoulders underneath you a little bit, so the whole of the thoracic spine is off the floor. Lift your chin away from your chest, interlace the fingers if that's possible. And then release your hips down onto your wrists. Not so much that you're squishing the fingers, but just feel this gentle opening in the chest, from front of shoulder to front of shoulder. Lifting your hips off your hands, release them to the floor. Bring your hips back down to the earth and spread the shoulder blades. So just a little opening into the upper body, head and neck. Let's draw the knees towards the chest. Slip the hands behind the backs of the knees. Rock back as you exhale and rock up to seated. Come up onto the tips of your toes. Lift the elbows wide. Maybe float the toes to the same level as the knees. You could stay here or maybe release the arms, palms facing upwards. Keep an equal distance between your legs. And then take the right foot on top, cross the right ankle, feet to the floor, hands come to the knees, draw your spine nice and tall, feet are flat, lower chin towards the chest. Couple of breaths here. Lifting your gaze, wiggle the ankles underneath the knees. So you're going to have your right shin in front here, making this more of a square pose. So walking sit bones back 1 and 2, so the triangular shape between your legs is a little bit bigger, and your shins are almost parallel to the top edge of the mat. Feel where your spine is. Are you leaning forward or leaning back? Turn the palms upwards, take an inhale and just rest the fingertips behind the back of the skull. Slightly scoop the armpits forward so the shoulder blades sit on the back of the rib cage and rotate your heart around towards the right. Drive your right thigh bone and knee forward so the hip bone stays square to the front. And bring the back of your left hand over the thigh there. Palm facing outwards. You may continue to spiral the heart a little bit more, opening up into the shoulder joint there. And if you wish to go a little bit further, start to hinge left shoulder towards left knee. Use the fingertips behind the skull to gently eke the skull off the neck, creating length to the spine. And the arm that comes across is just providing a little bit of weight down there if that right knee is starting to pop up. Keeping both sides of the waist nice and long as you breathe. And as you come back through to the center, sweep your left arm around, taking the fingertips behind the skull once again. Lift your skull off your neck. Take the fingertips to the floor, come onto the tips of your toes. So your toes are in line with your sit bones. Raise your shins. Maybe releasing the arms. If you wish to add to this, start to reach forward with your right big toe as if you were to press a button. And then bring the knee back above the hip. Left big toe as if you were to press a button. And then bring this back. Cross your left ankle over the top, feet to the floor, hands onto the knees. Draw your spine tall, lower your chin towards your chest as you breathe. Breathing into the back of your heart, breathing some buoyancy into that space, creating breath across the back of the rib cage. Raise your gaze, Wiggle the feet underneath the knees. So you have your left shin in front here. Walking sit bones, that 1 and 2. Shins are almost parallel towards the top edge of the mat. Light flex to the feet will help to protect your knees. Take an inhale. Exhale, fingertips come behind the back of the skull, lifting the skull off the neck. Exhale, rotate your heart around towards the left, driving your left thigh bone forward. Bring the back of your right hand over the thigh. Start to turn the heart a little bit more, opening up that elbow like a wing. Hinging forward, right shoulder to right knee, reaching out both sides of the waist long, if you wish to take it here. If you feel you've gone too far at any point, you can always soften the pose. Listen to your body. It's not about how the pose should look or should be. Ask yourself, is it serving you? If not, you can change it, adapt it, or even come out. Little bit of weight down there through that arm that comes across. And coming back up and sweeping this right arm around, taking the fingertips underneath the shelf of the skull, lifting your head as you inhale, come forward about a third of the way. Inhale, lengthen out, tips of the ears move forward. Exhale, maybe come forward another couple of centimeters. Inhale, lengthening, exhale, come forward a little bit more, elbows are lifted, rooting back into the sit bones by pressing into the outer edges of your feet. And then as you inhale, come all the way back, reach your arms towards the ceiling and float the arms around and down. If it's possible, you can lean back, pull the ankles underneath to roll over the shins onto your hands and knees. Otherwise, just make your own way over. Start with the wrists underneath the shoulders, the hips above the knees. Press the tops of the feet to the floor. Walk your hands another hand forward. And as you inhale, lift your tailbone so the navel drops a little bit. Exhale, dive your shoulders forward of your thumbs, elbows in. Chest and chin to the floor. As you inhale, glide your belly through, baby cobra. As you exhale, pick up the navel and come to sit back into a child's pose, modified child. Inhale, lifts you onto hands and knees. Exhale, chest and chin to the floor. Inhale, slide your belly through, chin slightly in. Exhale, lift your navel and stretch back. One more time, moving with your breath. Inhale, so the breath initiates the movement. Exhale. Inhaling. Exhaling. So stay with this if this is enough for you. If you just want to keep it simple today. You can add as you inhale, come up. Exhale, bring the knees a little bit closer. If you want to add something to this. Float your right leg up behind you, flex your foot. Press the heel away as you exhale, dive. Inhale, come through, top of the foot to the floor. Exhale, lift the navel and come to sit back down. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale here. Inhale, extend the left leg, push the heel away. Exhale, chest and chin. Inhale, come through. Exhale, lift your navel and come to sit back down. Maybe one more time each side of the leg, inhaling here. Exhale. Inhale, right leg lifts, push the heel away. Exhale, chest and chin. Inhale, come through. Exhale, pull the navel back to take you into child's pose. One more time, inhaling. Breath for nothing. Inhale. Exhale. Come through. And back into child's pose. Coming up onto your hands and your knees, tucking your toes. Draw the shoulder blades down the back, float the knees off the floor. Take the whole spine back. Start to lift your sit bones, unfolding into your first down facing dog. So if you can make this fluid, maybe bending one knee and then the other, easing into the backs of the legs. rolling through the bones of your feet. Maybe lifting high onto both sets of toes as you inhale and exhale, stretching your heels back. So don't be overly concerned about bringing the heels to the floor. Think more of lengthening through the inner and outer edges of your feet. Let your head go completely. Let it hang as if it was a fruit, a ripe fruit hanging off a bough, so that the head drops below the line of the spine, and slowly turn your head from side to side as you look underneath each armpit. Bring your head back to the center. Reach the crown of the head forward as if it was the top of the spine. And then leaving the hands where they are, softly lower your knees to the floor. Keep your toes tucked. Extend your right leg out behind you, flexing the foot, just as we did before. Take a little press up as you exhale. Inhale, push up. Push strongly down into your hands so your left knee floats off the floor. Press back into a three-legged dog, leading with your inner right heel. Hip bones are as square to the floor as you can make them. Exhale, come forward, thigh to sternum, shoulders over wrists. Inhale, push that heel away. Exhale, thigh to sternum. Inhale, push that heel away. Exhale, step the foot forward in between the hands. Help it through with your right hand if you need to, so the heel arrives underneath the knee, and softly lower your back knee to the floor. Push into your front heel, float the arms out and up, taking the fingertips behind the skull. Squeeze the inner thighs towards one another. Lift the pit of the belly. Start to rotate the chest towards the right knee. Hinging forward in this twist, as if the left elbow were to come to the floor, and maybe press a button. You'll nowhere near get to the floor, just take it to where you feel you can. Float the left fingertips or hand to the floor, right arm reaches up. Draw the shoulder blades down the back. Right fingertips come inside the right foot. Pivot on your back knee so you cross the mat with your shin. Lean into your right knee as you raise up the left arm. Take the fingertips either side of your front foot as you pivot on the knee once again, toes behind. Walk the fingertips back as you lift your front toes, belly lengthening over your thigh. If you need to be higher, you walk the fingertips underneath the shoulders. Back of the neck is long. And walk yourself back onto the foot. Lift your back knee. Step back into a high plank. Let's stay with this baby vinyasa, lowering knees, lifting the hips slightly to counterbalance the weight of the upper body. Chest and chin come to the floor. Exhale. Inhale, slide through baby cobra, roll the shoulders, and release the forehead to the floor. Find a little internal rotation in the tops of both legs. Take the fingertips behind the back of your skull. Press the tops of the feet down so the knees lift, and as you inhale, the chest floats up. Exhale down. One more time. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale. Exhale. Take the thumbs underneath the shoulders. Push back onto hands and knees. Tuck your toes. Float your hips up and back into your down dog. Soften the elbows. Scoot the armpits forward. Find length from the tips of your ears to your outer hips. Thigh bones draw up into the sockets, pressing the tops of the thighs back. And keeping the hands where they are, lower your knees to the floor. Float your left leg up behind you. Lead with the inner heel. Take a little press up as you exhale. Inhale, push up. Exhale, push strongly down into the earth. Float your right knee off the floor. Stretch into a three-legged dog, leading with the inner heel. Exhale, thigh to sternum. Inhale, press away. Exhale, thigh to sternum, shoulders over wrists. Inhale, press away. Exhale, step your left foot in between your hands. Help it with your left hand if you need to. Lower your back knee to the floor. Make sure this shin is vertical, the front heel on the earth. Float the arms out and up as you inhale, fingertips behind the base of your skull. Lift the pit of the belly and squeeze your inner thighs towards your midline. Start to rotate towards the left. Hinging forward, as if you were to press a button with your right elbow on the floor in front of your toes. Right fingertips float to the earth. Left arm rises, looking up towards the thumb. Swapping hands, left fingers come inside of the foot. Pivot on your back knee. Lean into your left knee, raise the right arm up. Take both sets of fingertips either side of your front foot as you swivel, toes behind the knee. Walk back into Ardha Hanumanasana, half hamstring stretch. A little bend in the knee, lengthening belly over thighs. Maybe you want to come a little bit higher, taking the fingertips underneath the shoulders. Front, back, and sides of the neck equally long. Walking yourself back onto the foot. Lift the back knees, step back into a high plank. Lower your knees, lift your hips, chest and chin to the floor as you exhale. Glide through baby cobra and release your forehead down. Little internal rotation in the tops of your thighs, fingertips behind the skull, possibly chest as you inhale, maybe legs. Think of length rather than height. Couple of breaths. Releasing down, thumbs underneath the shoulders, push back onto hands and knees. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Right. Walking your hands back towards your feet, so you're going to be standing at the back of your mat with your feet about 2 fists apart. Softening your knees so you can at least have the fingertips on the floor. Nod and shake your head, just releasing any tension there. Make little cupcake hands and place the fingers around the skull, maybe thumb just in front of the ears, and just allow that to create a little bit of traction. The head hanging off the neck. Slip the fingers to the base of the skull without interlacing. Elbows start to float up. Bend your knees, let your belly rest on your thighs. Coming into a flat back, lifting the skull to the fingers. Having an attachment of lower belly onto thighs. Press down into the heels to fold again. Take the fingertips to the floor and looking forward on the mat, start to walk your hands back into your downward facing dog. Hips are lifting off the lower back, up off the tops of the thighs as if they were full of helium. And walk your feet forward towards the backs of the wrists. Feet are hip distance apart. Take an inhale, lead with your heart, come all the way up to standing. And take the fingertips just behind the skull. Soften the knees. Heels and tailbone drop. Heart lifts. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fly forward and touch the earth. Spin your gaze along the floor as you inhale. Step back with your left toes into your lunge. Push down to the feet. So you can come up with the upper body, taking the fingertips behind the skull. If you feel straight leg, elbows out of alignment, soften your back knee a little bit and squeeze the inner thighs towards one another. Narrow the hip bones. Float your chest around towards the right. Lean forward as if the left elbow were to come to the front of you. Anchor to the ball of your back foot. Float your left fingertips to the floor. Right arm rises, pulling your right thigh bone back in space. Take the right hand onto the right foot. Bring your back heel to the earth, and as you lean up over the knee, your thumb rises. Parsvakonasana. Take the fingertips back either side of your front foot, swivel up your back heel so it's a lunge. Begin to take your hamstring stretch here. And you may need to come a little bit higher with the hand on the shin. So, especially if your hand is to lock out that front knee. Re-bend your right knee. Take the right hand onto the foot again, back heel down, raising up your left arm. And fingertips again, coming to the back of your skull. Take the palate back, the roof of your mouth, but keep the chin slightly into the back of the neck to stay long. As you exhale, come forward, elbows in, ankle. Inhale, open the chest, curl your right sit bone underneath. Exhaling, elbow to inner ankle. Inhale, open chest, curl your right sit bone underneath you. Push into the right foot as you come up into warrior two, taking the fingertips behind the skull. Suck your right thigh bone back into the socket. Allow that left hip to rotate forward slightly. As you lift your right elbow up towards the sky, slide your left hand down the back thigh. Think of reaching upwards rather than over too much. As you straighten that front leg, take the fingertips back behind the skull. Turn your toes inwards. So feet are parallel. Soften the knees. Firm the thigh muscles around the bones. Come forward into a flat back. Keep the front of the body turned. Turn your heart towards the left knee. Reach your right fingertips to the floor. The fingertips creep over towards your left toes. Lean your skull back into your fingertips. Reach out to the tips of your ears. Float yourself back through to the center. Fingertips come behind the skull. Lift the skull to come all the way back up. Swiveling the feet around towards the right. Open the arms back into a warrior two. Back arm comes up and over. Take the fingertips to the floor. Swivel up your back heel. Lower the back knee down onto the floor. Walk your hands back underneath your shoulders as you lift your front toes back into Ardha Hanumanasana. Perhaps you want to take your left hand a little bit further out and raise up your right arm. So it's a little bit more like a reverse triangle now. Great, and then taking the fingertips forward, walk yourself back onto your foot. Lift your back knee and step back into a downward facing dog. Make your down dog a little bit shorter by patting the toes forward. Take your weight into the right hand and feed the arm bone back into the socket so the shoulder blade feels secure on the upper back. Release your left hand, feed it across, taking a hold of the outer shin or ankle. There's a little twist in the upper body here as you look underneath your right armpit. Sink both heels, lift both sit bones. Take the hands back to the floor. Distribute the weight between these 4 points for a moment. And walk your feet forward towards the feet are hip distance apart. Take an inhale. Sweep your arms out to the sides. Come up with your core rather than your jaw. Fingertips behind the back of your skull. Reach your arms up as you inhale. Exhale, fly forward from the hips, soften the knees, take the fingertips to the earth. Lift and lengthen your gaze along the floor. Step back with your right toes into your lunge. Push down through the feet, float the arms out to the sides. Fingertips behind the skull. Soften the back knee if it helps you to feel the pelvis dropping off the waist. Neutral pelvis. Squeeze the inner thighs towards one another. Narrow the pelvic bones. Turn your heart towards the left, so twisting across. Leaning forward as if the right elbow were to come to touch the floor. Float your right fingertips to the floor. Left arm rises into a twist. Left hand onto the top of the left foot, back heel down. Raise up your right arm, Parsvakonasana. Take the fingertips either side of that left foot, swiveling up your back heel. Hamstring stretch as you begin to straighten that front leg. You may want to come up onto the shin if you need a little extra height. Scissor the tops of your thighs towards your midline. Release the fingertips to the floor if you came up there. Re-bend your knee, left hand back, heel down. Raise up your right arm. Fingertips coming behind the skull. Lean the skull back into the fingertips a little bit here. As you exhale, curl forward, elbow to inner ankle. As you inhale and open the chest, roll your left sit bone underneath you. Sit bone to heel connection. One more time. Exhaling. Inhaling. Push into the front foot to power yourself up. Fingertips behind the skull. Suck your left thigh bone back into the socket. Allow your right hip to rotate forward. Shoulders are facing the center of the room. Lift up your left elbow. Point it towards the sky. Slide the right hand down the thigh. And then coming up here, fingertips behind the skull. Straighten the leg. Turn your toes in so your feet are parallel. Hug the thigh muscles around the bones, but soften the backs of the knees. Come forward into a flat back. Start to twist towards the right. Reaching out to the tips of your ears. Left fingertips float to the floor. You can keep the right fingers behind the skull. Maybe you're creeping your left fingertips over towards the right big toe. Take the palate back, the roof of your mouth. Come back to the center, fingertips behind the skull. And this time you're going to release the fingertips to the floor and let your upper body release down. Come up onto the tips of your fingers. Spin your heels in a little bit. Again, curl your sit bones underneath you as if they were to come in line with the heels. Bring your hands to your heart in prayer. And just rest your forehead on your index fingers, maybe go a bit deeper. As you yield, as you descend, feel the uplift from the pelvic floor. Root, yield down to spring up. And then swivel your feet towards the left. Drop down into a warrior two. Back arm comes up and over. Take the fingertips to the floor. Swivel up your back heel. Lower your back knee down. Walk your hands back so that underneath the shoulders as you lift your front toes. Right fingertips, organize them so you've got some stability. Maybe the left arm reaches up. Little reverse triangle. Taking the hands back, lift the back knee, step back into a downward facing dog. Soften the elbows. Make your down dog a little bit shorter, walking your toes forward an inch or so. Take the weight into your left hand, feed the arm bone back into the socket. Set the shoulder blade on the back of the rib cage as you reach your right arm across, taking a hold of the outer shin ankle. Spinning the heart, gazing underneath your left armpit, lifting both sit bones, sinking both heels. Take the hands back to the floor and walk your feet forward. Bring your feet hip distance apart. Coming all the way up to standing, sweeping your arms out and up. And drawing your thumbs down your center line to your heart. Great. Shifting the weight onto the right foot. You're going to peel the left toes off the floor. Lifting your knee, take the knee out, grab a hold of the ankle and place the foot up onto the top of your thigh for tree pose. Firm the inner thigh towards your foot. Lower your gaze perhaps. So coming back to your center. Finding that stability, that internal stability, even on the outside you may be wobbling quite a bit. And then from that stability, perhaps you're going to open out. Explore a little bit. Opening out the arms. And then come back to that place of safety. Back home. So this is what we do. We reach out, we go exploring, we go a little bit outside our comfort zone. And then we come back to something more familiar, something more stable. If you wish, turn your heart towards the bent knee. Keep the pelvic bones square to the front. Even a little twist here as you take the right fingertips onto the thigh, the left arm may wrap around the back. Root down to receive the uplift. And then floating back around, hands to the heart in prayer, coming back to your center. Float the foot off the knee, take it forward. I'm going to turn around here. So you've got your left knee up. Dive back. Place the heel to the floor, so it's a warrior one. Hands still in prayer, hook your thumbs, reach forward. Upper arms by your ears, grounding through the outer foot. So you're on a diagonal here, leaning forward, keeping the lower belly lightly lifted. Release the fingertips to the floor. Swivel up your back heel and lower the back knee down. Extend the heart. As you exhale, lift the back knee. Take a hamstring stretch, maybe forehead to shin. Rebend your right knee and sweep your right arm forward by your ear. As you inhale, the arm sweeps down, you begin to straighten that front leg. You take a twist as the right arm rises up, second variation of twisted triangle, Pavrita Trikonasana. And then as you bend the knee and the arm comes forward on the exhale. Inhale, only straighten the knee as much as you feel you can. It may not straighten at all. Exhale. One more time. Inhaling, inflating the hips up and back. Exhale. Take the right fingertips across the mat towards the front corner. Back heel down. Lean your right shoulder blade inside the knee. Raise up your left arm. So it's a really stretchy Parsvakonasana. Left fingers come up and over. Stretchy lizard pose. And then from your core, suck your fingertips back underneath the shoulders. Hands to the floor, step back into a downward facing dog. Let's lower down into a child's pose for a moment of pause as we navigate the peaks and troughs of our practice. Give yourself a moment just to let go. Organize your arms so your shoulders can be relaxed as possible. Arms can be out in front or down by your sides. Just be with the body breathing. Stretching your arms out in front of you. Come back onto hands and shins, tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Walk your feet forward towards the front of the mat. Coming all the way up to standing as you inhale. And exhale, grow even taller as your thumbs draw down. So taking the weight onto your left foot, soften the knee slightly. Pick up your right knee. Take it out to the side. Grab a hold of the shin or the ankle. Place the foot up towards the top of the thigh. And then firm the inner thigh towards the foot so there's a relationship there. Hands into prayer as you press the palms together. Hug the muscles and skin towards your midline. Perhaps lower the gaze a little bit towards the tips of the fingers. Our gaze will affect our balance. You just notice that. Finding that place of inner stability, even if there's quite a lot of wobbling and movement going on the outside. And then reaching out, exploring out as you open the arms. Expand the breath. And coming back home, back to our center, back to something a little bit more known. Inhale, perhaps again, you're going to explore outwards. Expanding out into your personal space. Back to our center. Perhaps you take a little twist, heart towards the bent knee, without allowing the hips to swing too much. Left fingertips onto the thigh. Right arm could wrap around the back into this twist, reaching down to your supporting leg. And then back, hands into prayer. Float your foot off your thigh, take it forward, and step back with that leg. We're going to step back into a warrior one. So back heel comes down. You may need a little bit of width between the feet here in order to bring the right hip and rib cage forward. Hook a thumb, one thumb over the other, so you created a little bind. Reach the arms forward like an arrow. So coming forward diagonally, so as not to dump into the lower back so much here. Reaching to the outer edge of that foot, and then release the fingertips to the floor. Swivel up your back heel. Lower your back knee to the floor. Inhale. Exhale, hamstring stretch. Maybe forehead to shin. Coming forward as you bend that front knee, back knees off. Reach your left arm forward by your ears. The same arm as front leg. Sweep the arm down by your side. Take it up as you inhale. Twist a triangle. Exhale, bend the knee and reach forward. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale. Exhale. Take the hands to the floor. Step back into a downward facing dog. Lower your knees to the earth. Flatten your feet. Come back into your child's pose. Dropping to the earth. And from your navel, slowly curling your way up to sit on the heels, tracing the fingertips along the mat onto your knees, onto the thighs. Bring your spine upright. Knees together. Sink your hips over to one side and stretch your legs out in front of you. Use your hand to sweep along the length of your hamstrings. So you can feel both sit bones on the floor. Take a hold of your right shin and draw the foot up towards the top of the thigh as you would a tree pose. Take your left leg slightly out in an angle. Not so much that you started to sit back onto your sit bones. So some of you may need a little bit of elevation here. If you don't have a block, you could use a rolled up towel or blanket perhaps, just so your pelvis is slightly forwardly mutated. Turn your heart towards the bent knee. Take the left hand onto the shin. Raising up your right arm. Fingertips come behind the back of the skull. Open up the chest. Drop down to the sit bones. Feel the uplift through both sides of your waist. You may want to keep it here today. This may be enough. If you want to go further, slide the hand towards the ankle. Just coming into a side bend over that leg. You can even take a hold of your big toe with the first two fingers of that hand. Again, maintaining length and lift to the underneath side of your body. Turn your heart towards the straight leg. Left fingertips come to the floor. And maybe curl the elbow forward towards the knee. If this all feels a bit too much, take the fingertips just either side of that front leg. Reach out from your hips through to the tips of your ears. Coming back up here. Let's take a little counter twist. Back of the left hand over the thigh, right thumb behind you. And if you like to take this into a little spiraling back bend, the back hand comes to the floor. Those front toes turn in, and you sweep the arm over by the cheek. Coming all the way back down to the floor, take your left ankle in front, just crossing the legs. Not square pose this time, but heels a little bit closer towards you. Hands to the floor behind you, fingers point forward. Maybe pressing the knees to the floor, puffing up the chest. Hold the head. And then release yourself down. Stretching the legs out in front of you once again. Just rocking from side to side, moving the float of the buttock out of the way, just feeling your sit bones. Hand onto the left shin as you draw the foot up onto the top of the thigh. Take your right leg out to the side. And it doesn't have to be your maximum. So you want to be able to feel yourself towards the fronts of the sit bones. Turn your heart towards the bent knee. Right hand onto the shin. Root down, raise up the arm. Fingertip comes behind the back of the skull as you open up the chest. Stay here if this is where you want to be. Even if you know you can come forward, sometimes it's just quite nice to feel the elevation without always having to take it to our maximum. Or slide the hand down towards the ankle, even grabbing a hold of the big toe, but feeling the length to the underneath side of the body as you breathe. Turning the heart towards the straight leg. Take your right fingertips out. Suck your thigh bone back into the socket if that feels like a stabilizing adjustment. And curl the elbow towards the floor, towards the inner leg. Alternatively, keep the fingertips on the floor nice and wide. And just come squarely over the leg. Even upright is fine. And as you come back up, take a little counter twist. Back of the right hand over the thigh, left thumb in line with your tailbone. Further to this, pull the weight into the back hand. Front toes turn in. Sweep your hips forward, arm comes over the face. And release yourself back down onto the earth. Bring your right ankle in front. Hands behind you. I'll turn to the side this time. Fingers pointing forward. Perhaps pressing knees to the floor, lifting the hips, curling the shoulder blades around. Lift your gaze, but keep the head held. And release yourself down. Bringing the tips of the toes to the floor, draw your knees in. Maybe wrapping the forearms around the knees, taking a hold of the elbows and sliding the belly up here. Toes could come off the floor, maybe chin towards the chest. So just balancing on your sit bones, cosmic egg. Knowing that you are but a minute copy of the universe in its entirety. Everything you need is contained within you. The legs stretch forward, the arms rise. If you haven't got much mat behind you, just do a little bottom walk to help readjust the hips. And as you exhale, curl your way down to the floor. Hug your knees towards your chest. Have your knees and ankles glued together, the hands molded over the fronts of the knee joints. And slowly just circle the knees in the same direction, rolling around the outer rim of your pelvis. Around those two bony protrusions, which are joints, your sacroiliac joints. Nice and slowly. And then in the opposite direction. Take your arms into a surrender position or outstretched. And drop your knees over to the right. Gaze can be up to the ceiling or towards the left elbow. Breathing behind the navel. Inhale, engage your core muscles to draw the knees back through to the center. And take them over to the other side. Gaze can be towards the ceiling, towards the right elbow. And although we're coming to the end of our practice, can we stay present to what is? Present to this moment, this breath. Inhale, draw your knees back through to the center. Release the feet to the floor. Arms down by your sides. And if you feel your lower back needs to have a little bit of softness, you can keep your knees bent. This may be your Shavasana today, or stretch your legs forward. Maybe press the skull down into the mat once again. Lift the shoulders vertically off the floor. Slide the skin of the shoulders down the back. Release the upper body. And roll across the back of the skull, just turning your head a few times before coming to rest on a single point. Take an inhale through the nose. Sigh out through the mouth. 2 more times. Inhaling through the nose. Sighing out through the mouth. 1 last time. And finally, noticing any residual pockets of tension that you may be able to reorganize so as to receive gravity more fully. We'll be here for 2 minutes in silence together. I'll 9 the time. And of course, if you wish to extend your Shavasana even longer in your home, you are of course free to do so. Gently guide your mind back inside your body. Feel the breath that's there. Allow the breath to grow a little as it travels towards the outer confines of your body. Just having an awareness of where you end and everything else begins. Wiggle fingers and toes or make any movements just to make sure you're back inside your skin. And when you're ready, just slowly roll yourself over to the right side. Left hand comes to the floor. Using that left hand to gently spiral your way back to any comfortable seat. And closing our practice together, bringing the hands into prayer. Raise your fingertips to your forehead for clarity of thought. To your lips for satya, truthfulness of word. And to your heart for love in action. And with an open heart and perhaps a slightly more spacious mind, raise your gaze. Namaste. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. Take care.